All right. All right. I'm gonna get started. Everyone see my screen, okay?
Yes,
No.
sir.
Yes, we see it.
Awesome. So I'm just gonna give a little introduction of myself. Hi guys, I'm Tyler, aka StiffTee. I wrote the Book of Space Creation, New York Times bestseller. Um, I've been on Red Team 3 times. I've won 2 lands. I am currently top 150 in Overwatch, and it's definitely not because it's the beginning of the season. Uh, I peaked around like GM or something when it was easy to get GM. I'm more like a mid to high Masters player. Um, but yeah, obviously I'm not the greatest tank player or anything, but I think I have a decent understanding for how the role works. And joined with me today is my good friend Seamus. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Introduce yourself, Seamus.
Hi, I'm Seamus slash Blurse. I played tank for UCOW Black for a couple semesters, and we won our league once, so that was cool. I'm a similar boat to Tyler. I'm not the best player ever, but I think I have a decent understanding of the role. I'm like low masters, um, so
Awesome. So, first thing we need to know is what do tanks do? All right. I didn't see who was in the call. I remember. Let's pick
I
on. Go ahead and pick on someone for me, Seamus.
yeah, I got you. Let's go with Samson. Samson, what do you think tanks do?
Luke, what do tanks do?
So they make space.
Okay. That's part of it. That's part of it. Space is the biggest thing that tanks do.
I
Um,
guess it depends on the tank. Different tanks do like different things. Like some of them draw out cooldowns. They all have like different jobs based on like whether
exactly.
they're off tank or main tank.
Exactly. So you hit on a lot of things there. So I would say the main thing that I encompass all of this in is pressuring the enemy team. And this can be done in a lot of ways. Obviously, make space, like we said, making space. That is controlling areas of the map, specifically areas that your team gets value from, or preventing the enemy team from getting value from these spaces. This includes forcing attention, making enemies look at you so that they're not looking at your team, aka allowing your team to pop off. Obviously, if you die when you're forcing attention, it's not that good, but the good thing about tanks is they have a lot of HP, a lot of sustain. They're very good at forcing attention for long amounts of time. Forcing resources. Tanks are also good at mitigating cooldowns and winning resource trades. They have abilities that completely deny very important cooldowns like Sleep Dart and Anti-Nade, using Ana as an obvious example there. But uh, tanks are really good at forcing resources, winning cooldown trades. And finally, creating a number advantage, getting kills. Getting kills is just an amazing way to get space, but it doesn't even have to be getting kills. You can be forcing people out of the fight any way possible. It's still uh, creating a number advantage for your team. So all of these things is pressuring the enemy, and this is what tanks do best. Don'ts, dying. Don't die. If you die, all of the space you made is gonna disappear. Being ignored. This goes against forcing attention. If you are, trying to get value against the enemy team, but they're just like ignoring you and going on their team, then you're not being enough of a nuisance. Requiring too many resources and not getting value. Tanks oftentimes have an issue with requiring a lot of healing. This is because they have big hit boxes, so they take a lot of damage, and big health pools, so they often think they can get away with taking damage. But if you're requiring too many resources and then not getting subsequent value, you are just taking. You're basically doing the opposite of tanking. You're instead of forcing attention on the enemy team, you're forcing attention on your team. Not good, counterintuitive. And then another thing here, being selfless. So, Spylo says this a lot, and it's really you want to play selfish as a tank. You're not literally protecting your team. You are doing things that make the game easier for your team, but you're not just playing Winston. You're not just standing on your back line waiting for them to dive and bubbling. No, you're making the engagements happen. You don't want to be like too reactionary is basically what I'm trying to say. A little caveat here, every role can make space. Every role can pressure the enemy team. Tanks do it the best, though, due to their engagement abilities, their high health pools, and all of that stuff. So they are able to do it for long amounts of times, and they do it very effectively. All right.
Oh, can you go back up one thing to add?
Yeah, go ahead.
So on the point requiring too many resources, not getting value, a lot of times you can not be dying and think you're doing well, but you are taking up this, like, you are taking up a lot of healing resources and not allowing your team to do anything. So that's kind of, and you could be doing a lot of damage too, but you're not necessarily making pressure. So the numbers can be deceiving in this aspect.
Exactly. So now that we know like what pressuring is and what is good to do, next thing we should ask is who and where should we pressure? What space should you take? So there's three elements to this. First, where is the easiest 1v1? What hero do you have the best matchup against? Or who is in the best vicinity to you? Who's in your effective range? Who can you reach? This sort of thing. So obviously, if you're Winston and you have a Widowmaker and Reaper equal distance to you, Widowmaker is going to be a lot easier of a 1v1. There's a lot of different things that go into this that can change throughout the map, but just generally, look for take the easiest route. Second, how much aggression on your team are they applying? So this is more if there's someone engaged on your team, then it's most of the times it's more crucial that you're focusing them rather than someone who is not actively engaged on your team. But keep in mind, support could be healing someone who is engaged on your team. That support is still engaged on your team. So you just want to think of how much pressure is the other person applying to your team, and you can weigh that. And then finally is how valuable is the space. You want to clear high grounds for your supports. You want to clear spaces that your team is going to capitalize off of, and you want to clear spaces that the enemy team is attempting to capitalize off of. A lot of different examples of that, but yeah.
Professor, how
Yes.
often as a tank do you look for 1v1s?
So as a tank, you're pretty much always looking for 1v1s technically, because you're never so as a tank, you are 1v4 like you can win 1v4s, but when I say like the easiest 1v1, you can't shoot multiple people at the same time for the most part. Some tanks obviously have the exception. So when I say the easiest 1v1, it's more just like the target to focus. But that being said, if you are 1v1ing one person and you're allowing your team to get 4v4'd and you're 1v1ing a squishy, that is not really good. You want to, if you're taking a 1v1, it should be to relieve pressure from your team. If you're 1v1ing someone and it's allowing them to get pressure on your team, then it's not good. But in general, you approach a 1v1, and what this should do is it should create a 1v4, 1v5-ish kind of. The enemy team should look at you when you are engaging in these. Does that make sense, William? Kinda.
Yes, but why is it not a good idea to make it a 4v4 for your team then if you're on tank?
Well, because tanks are the most important role in the game. So if you are 1v1ing a support and they're just doing their job at living, or 1v1ing a DPS, their tank, like tanks are, they have the most HP, they have high damage, so they are very suitable to taking on more than one opponent, taking on a lot of space. So you're not getting as much value as you could be, is what I'm saying. You can handle a lot more.
So even though the numbers is the same, your character is more important than the rest of the characters.
Yep.
So you're putting your team at a disadvantage.
Yes, exactly. But 1v1s that's the term that Spilo uses to identify. I think what he's like trying to get at is more just like who is your original target, like who is your primary target. 1v1 does kind of make it seem like you are 1v1ing, but in reality, you are focusing someone, resulting on other people to focus you and obviously not die.
Understood.
I think something to point out as tanks is like one of their best capabilities is in terms of isolation and how they can do that. A lot of tanks have the ability to do that, so this is kind of going back to this point. Is the target should always be the person that's, like Tyler said, putting the most aggression or pressure onto your team. And by isolating them, you'll be able to take that 1v1 or that battle typically in the favor of yourself, because you'll be isolating the enemy away from their team, and then you should be an advantage to the point where you can take on that target, and then if you eliminate them, it'll just be a lot easier to steamroll from there.
Exactly. Wow, I love my students are just so
Yep.
smart. All right. So
Let's
now,
put them to the test.
yeah, we're gonna put you guys a little bit to the test here. We're gonna do a little analysis here. We are the monkeys. We're gonna start on the blue monkey, Blue Winston. I think that there's a lot of nuance to this, but I'm just gonna ask Joey, who do you want to pressure in this situation if you're Blue Winston?
If I'm Blue Winston,
Yeah.
I want to step around the left side of the wall that's in front of us right there and either jump and put pressure on the Ana, or if the Cassidy who's in a duel with my Cassidy over on the right side starts to step out of that archway a little bit, I want to jump over there and finish that kill.
All right, and how come, Joey? Going back to why we, the 3 points here, why are Ana either an easy 1v1, putting aggression on our team? Are they doing those?
Well, it's their main source of healing right now. If that team doesn't have an Ana, they don't have a way to sufficiently keep their own Winston up in the fight. You can also, as the blue monkey, I'd be able to try and coordinate with my Genji, who's already on the high ground, to get up there and make that fight a lot quicker and easier.
Lovely.
With the cast, yeah.
Lovely. So yeah, me and Seamus talked about this a bit. I think there's 2 correct answers here, either the Cassidy or the Ana. Lucio's pretty much AFK. Winston, it's not really a good 1v1. I mean, it's just like, you're just gonna tickle each other. And Tracer is not really, you're just gonna give up space if you're trying to focus this Tracer.
Ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it comes down between the Cass and the Ana. I really like how you mentioned padding, Joey, because I think from where you are right now, the Ana is not a good target, but if you path over here to this side, get a good jump, it makes it a lot easier, especially since your Genji and Ana are engaged. Ana is engaged in the fight, healing the Winston, fighting our Genji.
I kind of disagree, because the Ana does not have LOS of the monkey.
That's why I personally think the Cassidy is the better pick here. I think the Cassidy has way more LOS on our team, and he is in a lot more of an aggressive position. Plus, he has broken LOS of his supports, and he is very easy for us to attain. I do think there is an argument for the Ana, because I think there's an argument to be said that the Cass is kind of out of position, so he has 3 people on his what is it, line of sight, his lane.
Yeah.
So he should lose this anyway, but I think Cass is probably the best answer, especially from where you are now.
He's the most isolated
Professor.
for the rest of his team.
Yeah.
Is this not going back to the idea of forcing a 1v1 where you're putting your team in a 4v4 while you're out of the fight? Because while you jump that Cassidy, Winston now has access to your Lucio and Ana with no
Yeah,
pressure
that's
on.
kind of.
So because of how close
That's why
that
I
Winston
said
is.
Ana.
So I think what you have to do, this is a very different answer from what both of you said. This is actually a Merc Winston angle, because you let your Cassidy Lucio clear that Cassidy angle. You force Monkey out. Once you get him out, then you get permission to go jump the Lucio or the Ana. Lucio is a safer dive because you can control that high ground and force him out, and then you're just controlling that space, forcing them off that high ground, and then you go again on Ana. I think jumping Cassidy fills a little too much space, and it's not really your job to kill that Cassidy on that angle. It's up to your Cassidy with a Lucio on the pocket to do it. Lucio should probably go help the Cassidy win that duel, then turn in Merc Tracer. So.
I also think I agree with William here in the sense that the Cassidy is out of position objectively already. Sending a monkey on this angle is not going to make him any less out of position. It's not going to convert the kill much easier. And I do think it gives up a little bit too much space. with an Ana pocket on your cast, Lucio being able to float to your cast, I think that should just be an easy kill onto the Cassidy regardless. So with this, we have our Genji currently on high ground, which is spamming out Ana realistically. Genji is currently drawing attention from Ana. So I guess it speaks to your point of other roles can also make space. Genji will be currently drawing attention on Ana, which will allow that monkey trade to happen a little easier. So that allows you to force out the monkey a little sooner, which then gives you access to one, the objective, and two, the Ana on the high ground. Now you could skip the monkey if you're the blue monkey here and just jump the Ana. It's much riskier of a play. Because you have that Genji angle set up already. But I do think the smarter play is to win the Winston trade while your Genji is in. He's not committing any cooldowns really on this. And then you can jump in from there.
I agree with a lot of what you guys have been saying. Overwatch, obviously, very nuanced game. I think, like, to be fair, I think this is a pretty terrible setup from Red Team, so I think a lot of what you do will be pretty decent. I do think that the Winston, if you are just poking Winston right now, you're kind of your Genji's kind of in a 2v1 against the supports right now. I do think you should try to alleviate some of that pressure on the Genji, but I think there are a lot of stuff you can do. I don't hate shooting the monkey here either.
Would pressuring Winston not make it a 1v1 for Genji, kind of? Because then you're forcing support
Lucio's
cooldowns
looking at him too.
Right, so you're getting the Ana out though, because the Ana now has to carry the Winston while you're dueling the Winston.
My argument is, I don't think you can. I don't think a Winston can put in that much pressure
for the Genji. We're turning our Genji into a 1v0.
So without leading it too much into a farther nuanced conversation, I think this dynamic gets a whole lot different if you place the Lucio on top of the Ana or on top of the Cassie. Either one of those, this dynamic becomes so much different as far as who you can target. But I do think in this scenario, the correct option is pressuring the Ana at the same time that you're pressuring the monkey. Or if you want to skip past the monkey, you can try that as well. It's just a bit risky of a play because it leads to the trading backline.
It also gets way different if you move the Tracer, because you could skip the monkey if Tracer's not there. But because Tracer is there, you're leaving your backline very vulnerable.
Really susceptible for a dive from both of those, just because, I mean, Monkey has a lot more value when he's in a group of multiple, like, people. So you're going to, like, just allow the Monkey to get a lot of value on your backline, and the Tracer following up will definitely get one of them.
Yeah, so I think both Lucios are in terrible spots on this map. Because your Lucio's also in the wrong spot. He's not really marking Tracer. He's not helping cast. And then their Lucio's also in a terrible spot because he's AFK.
All right, valid. I love all these takes. Obviously, yeah, I don't really like. I think there's so there's a lot of stuff you can do in Overwatch, but I love the input. Very good takes. I agree with a lot of what y'all been saying. All right, moving on to the next one. Yeah, we can move on to this one. I think the last one it was a very convoluted setup, but this one I think is a little more obvious. All right, who do we have here? Andy, you're Orisa. Who are you pressuring right now?
Well, the Ram is very far forward if I'm on Orisa, so I just try to spin him into my Reaper and javelin him, and hopefully we can do enough damage or just fight long enough for his Nemesis to run out.
Correct answer. A lot of the times on tank, like usually just shooting the other tank, you're not getting a lot of value because tanks do a good job at forcing attention. They do it so they're able to live attention, and if you're focusing their tank, oftentimes you're doing what they want you to do. In this situation, however, their tank is really the only one engaged on our team besides the Genji, and we can't reach the Genji because we're in Orisa. So here, we just shoot Ramatra. And honestly, I would ask what this Ram would do, but this Ram is just out of position, and what he needs to do is back up and let his team try to take some space.
He needs to hit form and block, and that's it.
Pretty much. All right.
And then another thing to add, with this, like with this being Orisa is important too because
it's a good 1v1 for
tanks
you.
are better at like punishing other tanks. Like Orisa is very good at punishing other tanks. So like if you're on, I don't know,
Malga.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
Malga. I mean, I guess
If
all
you
tanks
were
have tools, like you can stop them, but like if you're on Malga, you can't punish them as hard, so you might want to reconsider. But yeah,
if you were on Winston, if
Professor.
the
something to think
Orisa was
about.
Winston instead, you might maybe think about the Genji. Yes, William?
Yeah.
Does the Genji impact how you would play this at all as Orisa based on your Cassidy's positioning?
Nah.
Like if you're on a shield tank, for example, I think you could step forward and block that support LOS because that would prevent your Cassidy from just dying here. But as Orisa, do you think you walk forward and maybe play? Can you move your
I
mouse behind their mantra? Like right there.
like
Would you like maybe play right there so you distract their supports and try to take attention so that they're forced to pick
I
between the
think this
Genji or
goes
them?
back to kind of what you were saying on the last point where the Cassidy just has to win his 1v1 or he's on the angle. Our Cass kind of just has to like play the LOS against their team here and win his fight against the Genji. I think it'd be like, sure, you could throw a javelin and maybe hit the Ana, but walking, I think like forcing all your attention on the Ram right now will force the Ana to look at Ram, the Brig to look at Ram. You might have the cast looking at our cast, but I think most of the time you're gonna still force like support cooldowns if you're focusing the Ram here.
So let your cast just like kind of fall victim to his own mistakes and try to secure the 4v4 by trading their tank.
Yeah, and it's still like
your cast definitely loses this because Genji's in Brig LOS.
Yeah.
So he's like definitely losing this.
So he's
I
gonna
think kind of the thought process behind it is that by isolating the Ramattra, you're gonna be forcing support like utility.
and
by doing
Ramatra
that,
is a
it kind
more
of
important
alleviates some
pick if we
pressure
do
away
trade
from
that.
the cast.
Yeah.
It's still a bad position. He should not be up there with the Genji, but it
Yeah.
does help because the tension of the supports are gonna just.
It'd be
shift slightly
fine
more.
if the Lucio wasn't trolling again. This must be Nitro Owen on the Lucio. The way
Yeah, I've been basing
he's doing
my
absolutely nothing.
I've been basing
it's
my
just Nitro.
I've been basing my Lucio positions off of how Nitro's been playing in our scrims. I thought it was good. He's not in the call, right, guys? All right. Anyway, so this one is okay. This one's a little funky. I think people probably aren't in positions they would want to be in for the blue team, but I honestly just want to hear some theory crafting on what this diva might do in this situation. Seamus, pick on someone. Sammy.
Yeah, I was gonna pick Sammy.
Damn.
I haven't heard from Sammy yet.
Whoa.
I just want to hear you
All right.
make some
Blue
some
Diva,
thought
what are you
process
doing?
here. If you're the blue diva.
Blue Diva, what am I doing? Well, I think the biggest thing is probably supporting my cast a little bit here on the side here, so he can at least take some damage, and probably forcing the Reaper out of his position here. And one thing though is that Winston has a nice like little dive on our back line there. So honestly, it's kind of like more reactory. You can't really like do anything here other than possibly force the Reaper out or support the back line here in case the monkey dives. Because again, Sojourn, Lucio, and Ana are kind of way too far away for me to like honestly really do anything. So all I could really do now here is mark the Reaper or Winston, depending on what they do. If Winston's just kind of hanging around, I guess try to force the Reaper out to gain a little bit more space. But if Winston dives, kind of help support the backline there.
All right. I do think the composition
that.
we're on is very anti-Winston. So I think the pressure being on the Winston is going to be pretty good here. Now I'm going to go through my thought process. Again, like I'm not sure if this is going to be the best answer or not, but I think our backline with Torbjorn Brigana can deny this Winston to really take any more space than he has already. I kind of want to start trying to open up options for the rest of my team, specifically maybe trying to like hit flanks on the Sojourn Lucio up here. I kind of want to get on this Ana. The Ana doesn't really have any peel for her right now. We have decent mobility, so we can get there kind of quickly. And we don't have to kill this Ana, but I kind of want to force the Reaper to maybe help, the Lucio to peel, or maybe the Soj to drop. I kind of just want to force something out of their team. Because if they just like kind of, our team is a little more brawly. We kind of want to force them to group up in some sort of way. But that's my thought process. I'd love to hear any other opinions.
So I think in this scenario, I think you're correct in that you need to open up options for your team. Your comp is pretty reactive, and red currently controls point. So by sending and supporting your Cassidy on a flank, say through that left side, onto that Ana, he's going to have pretty adequate pressure on Ana. This pressure can be supported by D.Va as well. It doesn't have to be. He can take that solo, but ideally we don't want to be forcing a 1v1 because you would rather have the advantage going into the fight.
Yeah.
So maybe having your Cassidy and your D.Va pressuring the Ana at the same time is more likely to make her fold that position, which by her folding that position, she's going to have to back up to either spawn or back up to the high ground, pretty long rotate, which is going to allow the rest of your team to more easily force out their Reaper. I think Monkey's not super important in this scenario just because the rest of your team, your Torb, your Brig, your Ana, they hold their own pretty well. But I think the most important part here is supporting your Cassidy and getting him on top of that Ana, like able to shoot him.
Awesome. Any other thoughts?
I mean, I don't know about you, Tyler and Seamus, but as a Monkey player, I think you're correct with D.Va and Cass have to leave the room. They play the room, they just play in the Monkey because Monkey just holds them. Like, he's just getting value out of just holding them in the room. Because he doesn't have to go on anyone because you can just play point the whole time.
Exactly.
Like,
They are the
D.Va Cass has to make the first move because you're playing into Soj Reaper on a Monkey in one room. In that small room, they're just going to be able to do whatever they want.
Yep. So if you were the Winston Miles, what are you doing right now?
If I'm the Winston?
Yeah.
Well, if I'm the Winston, I'm looking for my Ana to get a nade on the backline. Honestly, I'm looking for that backline engage and trying to get that engage onto the backline, even though they have the Torb and the Brig and the Ana. I'm looking for that nade with the damage from my Soj or my Reaper and coordinating that so that we can get that engage on the backline. And then even if we can't get the kill, we're getting out Torb E. We're getting out Whip Shot, Pax, Nade, Sleep, D.Va DM probably, Cass Nade. Like, we're getting out all of these cooldowns, and we still have map advantage.
Yep. Exactly. So you're really just waiting here for an engagement to, because you're not going to be able to make a good engagement by yourself.
Yeah, there's not really a good solo engage, so
you are playing the reactionary game right now. You could, if you had an ultimate, that might make it different. If we wanted to get in with Overclock, we had Primal, that could make it different. But yeah.
I would say in this scenario, the Winston comp is the more reactive comp comparatively, especially based off of map position. The Winston comp is just playing more reactively than blue.
All right. All right. Now we're going to move on to engagements. Take it away, Seamus.
Yes, so there are several elements of getting a good engagement. So the big one is timing. Timing is the biggest thing. So a lot of that comes down to syncing up with your team. So you want to engage when your team is engaged. So this could be things like if your Genji is on an off angle and he's putting on good pressure, you want to walk on the people he's putting pressure on. Maybe you can secure a kill. And then that's where communication comes in a lot of times with your team. Not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have to be a 3-2-1 dive, but you have to have you have to be going with your team. You don't have to be going in exactly at the same time, but you have to be playing off of what your team's doing. So that could be your flex CPS was pressuring the supports and got a cooldown out, and now that's an opening for you to go in. So yeah, just pay attention to what your team's doing, and openings to capitalize off of that. And this can be hard for tanks, especially because you are in the front line, which means a lot of times you can't physically see what your team is doing, like especially where your supports are, where your supports have, because generally you want to stay in your supports LOS so they can heal you, so they can hit cooldowns on the enemy. So that's something you have to be very mindful about. And again, communication with both the tank and the rest of your the teammates is important in that. Another big thing is pathing. How can I get to the spot I want to be quickest and taking the least amount of poke? Because if I take a bunch of poke, then my engagement will be weak. Resource management, similar thing. Your health is a resource. Your cooldowns, obviously, so that kind of goes along with pathing. How can I have a good engage without wasting my resources? And then obviously mechanics. If I'm going in on Ram and I get a good window where I can potentially kill like a squishy, I have to hit all my punches, right? So, and just a reminder that Tyler had mentioned this earlier, but a successful outcome from an engage isn't always a kill. It can be clearing an area, like attention, or a resource trade. So yeah, those are things to keep in mind with engagement. And based off of that, we have some examples from a very special tank player because the codes got wiped yesterday. So here we go. We'll watch this from a Blurse ranked game, and we'll see the good, and we'll get you guys' opinion on the good things with the engage and the bad things with the engage. So let's start it off here.
I like Femboy's name. I think that's Pete.
Yeah. Femboy loved getting traded this game.
All right, first things first. Was this a successful engagement? Call him someone, Seamus.
Let's go with Lightning because I know he loves to flame my gameplay.
I would say no, this was not a very successful engagement. The easy way to
agree.
tell is that you used most of your resource. Well, you used your Nemesis form. I don't see this
all three cooldowns.
Can you press the? Okay, yeah, you shield there. Okay, so you definitely had still on cooldown. So you used all your cooldowns and weren't able to get a kill. And along with not being able to get a kill, you also lost all of this space. So you're now down resources and you've lost space to the other tank.
So yes, I
So
agree.
would you say that a better thing that he could have done there is playing with a shield and his primary fire for a little bit before Nemesine? Because he used them all at the same time, which
Yes, you
ended
definitely
up
could
holding
have
the space once all that time was over.
If that question is to me, yes, you definitely could have more played to buy time. I think this is falling into the trap of when you're on defense, people like to just get in a lot. But if you're already on defense, you can kind of just force like zone this backline out. Similar, going back to how Tyler said, you can take a 1v4 as tank. You could let this Orisa just walk past you and not care too much, and instead put a shield in front of you, hold this choke, and like slow the backline and just primary fire shoot the backline. And then when the Orisa turns on you, you pop your Nemesis, and rather than backing up, can you play a little bit?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to.
You see this the left corner that's like right next to you here? You can instead play that corner with your Nemesis and just be hard to remove. Right there where that bush is, you can just play right there with your Nemesis once people look at you. And this is you taking attention. Well, so you first start off by zoning 4 players on their team. So your team is now in a 4v1 while you're also taking a 1v4. So it's an even fight, which means it's really hard for the other team to get space. They're risking get poked out, and then you're also going to be taking a lot of attention as soon as you pop your Nemesis and sit in this corner.
I think the main point here is resource management, because what I was trying to do was zone the backline, like you said, but I did not have to pop Nemesis form to do that, and by using my resource, I had to give space. So if I just sit here, like you said, then I can force more resources and use my Nemesis at a better time when there's more pressure.
I think another key point is your E completely gets wasted. You can see that you put it on targets that you did not focus at all. I think a better way to use it would either be do exactly what you did, but instead shoot the people that you're actively slowing. Obviously, it's a little bit easier when you have the Ramacha Major perk with the extra slow. You could probably actually kill somebody by doing that. But you could have slowed. You could have either done that and just shot them with your primary fire, or you could have slowed the break and then gone for the play that you did if you really want to pop Nemesis and try to get aggressive. If you slow the break, that she's now killable in this location, but she's able to just kind of walk out. So I think the E was kind of wasted as well.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Good points. Let's move on.
Can you go back to the previous slide though? I did have a question about that one as well.
If it lets me escape.
I also have a question about that, if that's cool.
Yeah, sure.
You can go first, Sammy.
Oh, okay. Well, I was talking about with like engagement timings. So a lot of times I find myself in a scenario where I feel like I see someone isolated and it's really super easy dive. But like for example, my hit scan or my flex player isn't able to support me on this dive. So I feel I kind of hold myself back because I'm like either A, I like dive in and like completely int, or like B, I just kind of like hold back and just kind of let the opportunity slip by. Are there better ways to play those scenarios, or is it like
So
I have to position better?
I think a little misconception with timing is that you don't need someone on the engagement with you. Let's say, as long as your team isn't in spawn, if they are drawing some sort of attention from the other team, like let's say maybe like they're getting dove themselves and you see like a free 1v1 kill, that your timing is still good because you're engaging at the same time as your team is getting engaged on. So you don't necessarily need someone. If you can get the 1v1 kill, then you can still go on that. You don't necessarily need someone to time it up with you. And then getting the kill itself, that's just kind of a matter of your micro, like, do you have the resources to do it? Are you on your cycle? We'll talk about that later. And, like, uh, did you hit your shots? That sort of thing. Does that answer your question, kind of?
And I think like a good, sorry. Yeah. I think like a good, like kind of shorthand rule of thumb for that is, especially if you're playing dive characters like Winston, is if their tank is doing something engaged, you should be engaged because their tank is putting on pressure and it can't focus you, so you should be putting pressure on their back line so they can't support the tank, and you have a window because their tank won't be able to focus you because they're engaged on your team. So that's a decent way to think about that, which Tyler told me actually, so thank you, Tyler.
Well, the biggest thing to note is just if that person is providing value. If they're not providing value, it's not worth your resources or your team's resources to like force an engagement on that person if they're not doing anything. So that's the first thing you have to determine, is if they're actually providing any resources to the enemy team, then they have to be dealt with as a result of that. If not, then that's an opportunity that you can use your own resources as well as your team's to engage on them, because they're going to be lacking in the resource of an extra player. I think that's
I also just think I also just think sometimes it's up to like you said, if sometimes you just feel like it's not like you just second guess yourself and you don't go. Sometimes you just have to go off of instinct. I mean, you can ask Tyler and Seamus. I just fucking send it sometimes. Like sometimes it just turns into I'm going in. There may not be anybody with me. It's just a confidence thing and just a belief that I'm making the right play based off of the time that I've played and how I've played those situations before. So sometimes it just comes down to your own instincts and your own determination based off of how you've played before. And you kind of just have to make those decisions in the moment and hope that it's the right one. Trust me, I have made a lot of fucked up ones.
No, I believe it. I believe it because I do the same thing, but like a lot of times it's in. So it's like am I making those right decisions or?
You should see me with Primal. I use it as a get out of jail free card all the time.
All right.
Kind of you have to get used to it.
Appreciate it.
All right, nice. Any other William? You had a question, didn't you? Or
yeah, that kind of touched on what I was gonna say. I was gonna ask Seamus to expand on the first bullet point a little bit with engage when your team is engaged. That kind of sounds like a passive sort of gameplay, where like you're waiting for someone else in your team to do something. Can you expand on that a little more? Maybe clear up the wording a little bit for Seamus, not for Tyler. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's just like that's not like something you should like do every fight, but it's something just to think of. That's more so to think about like, oh, is my team not following up with me? And it might be because their tank is engaged, so your team is providing value by absorbing and engage from their tank, and so then you can engage. That's kind of what I was getting at. It's not like wait for their tank to engage and then you engage. That wasn't really
I think
I think it's unclear a
clarity
little
there.
again. You kind of said the same thing again, where you're saying that you should let the other tank go first. How often are you going first as a tank, right? Like, how often are you just making a play, sort of similar to how we just talked about, where you go first and just trust that you're going to have some sort of follow up? Like, do you normally wait for someone else on your team to take the initiative, or wait for the team to take initiative, or how do you like decide when to go
I
first?
think the answer is very much it depends. It depends on who is on what your comp is playing, what the other comp is playing, what the map is, whether you're attacking or defending. I think that the best general answer though is you want to play like a tank trade to start the fight, and if you get an advantage in the trade, or if you see like an opportunity somebody's out of position, or you hit a cooldown, kind of like things we talked about last week, you go. So I think generally you want to be the initiator, but it's not just, okay, I'm here, I'm just going to go in necessarily. It can be that. It's more, you have to have a reason. You have to look for cues.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of ask the same question again then, because it didn't really touch on it. I understand what you mean by going first. Tyler, if you want to answer this too, whichever one of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the important part, my issue with the bullet point it's not necessarily wrong, but it's saying that like you're waiting for your team, right? So if you can expand on how your team plays into that a little bit more, because it says wait until your team is engaged. So what do you mean by your team being engaged? Should you be waiting for someone else on your team to make a move? Should you be waiting for the other team to make a move, or how do you?
I would say engaged is like honestly a very passive term for the word engaged. I include engaged as your Genji is in the midst of flanking. He is your Tracer is staged.
So do you think the word should be staged instead of engaged?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
I'm just. It's more just thinking about you can't go in. You can't go in as tank when your team is not in the position where they can follow up, or yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
To give value.
I think that makes sense. I think if we post these slides, we should change that word to staged then.
Yeah,
because I was getting a little bit of
that's
confusion
valid.
from
Yeah.
that. So I think that's just a wording thing. Sorry, I harped on it for so long.
No,
I just want to make sure that your guys' point was made clear here.
Well,
cool.
Just quickly, I think to the point of Seamus saying that like it's very dependent, I think it also is just person dependent, because everyone plays differently, right? Like everyone has their own different style of playing, so like there's some people who do prefer to go second.
I think I'm gonna push back on that. I feel like it's less play style. I feel like
I'm not saying
playstyle's
always. I'm just saying it definitely is a part of an
if
idea
you see
that, like,
I think you should generally look to go first, and you should. But what I was saying is, a lot of times you shouldn't just go. You should try to go first by forcing somebody out, by hitting. You should look to get cues and go first generally, or depending on the situation.
I think it's just too nuanced of a discussion to have, simply
Yeah.
because of the
I
fact
think we
that
cleared it
the
up well enough.
objective exists. Like,
Yeah.
because of it being objective,
Yeah.
there's limitations to when you can and can't engage, whether you should go first or second.
I think you guys
Let's go
can
ahead
move
and keep
on.
this
I think
moving.
we can move on.
All right, Seamus, this is your second clip here.
Yeah. We'll do a similar thing here.
Oh wait, I can't press space. I forgot about that. Oh, this is the other one.
Nope, you skipped one.
All right. All right.
Thoughts?
Let's hear some pros and cons from whoever you choose, Seamus. Someone who hasn't spoken yet.
You know what? Nitro just joined. Let's get Nitro's thoughts on this.
Oh my god.
What? I was definitely paying attention.
No, pick someone else.
Okay.
This guy doesn't deserve
sorry.
it. Oh my god.
Nitro, you let me down. Let's get. What do you think, Andy? Andy, my goat.
I think this was a great engage. Look how many punches you hit.
I only missed like 2.
That's impressive.
So what specifically is good, and what might, do you see anything bad with this?
I don't know exactly where the rest of your team is, but it doesn't really matter because you saw that their red team was way too forward. Yeah, they're just the entire team was playing too forward, so you could take advantage of that with your slow and your nemesis to just walk on the brig. And luckily the Sojourn was there too, and the Ana just walked out. So this was good because you noticed their team was too far forward, and you punished them with your cooldowns. It's like a textbook example of a good fight.
Awesome.
I would agree.
Another point I would have is because you're on attack there, it's kind of beneficial for you to trade backlines like you did in that situation because your backline's always going to end up being there first and you're going to control the objective.
Yeah.
So that was a good trade.
The only thing I harped on, or not harped on, but the only thing I thought could be improved here, well, there's some micro stuff like that too, but I think there's just the timing here. I think if he went just like 2 seconds sooner, he could have prevented some of his team dying. But other than that, like, it's a really good example of not looking at the Orisa and ignoring her, and then winning your, like, finding a good 1v1, well, 1v1 in quotes because you 1v3'd really, or two.
Yeah, a good engage.
Yeah.
That was like the main point we wanted, was to find a good engage and not focus too much on their tank, even though their tank was in. So, and then okay, the final example, the same procedure, good and bad. This one's a little bit longer, just to let the fight play out.
All right. Who's?
Let's hear some thoughts.
Can Nitro redeem
hear
himself?
it from. Yeah, Nitro. Were you paying attention this time?
Not as much, but kind of.
Okay,
that last clip, I was going to say a good target prio. Brig is the easiest person to kill. For this clip, you forced out the Soj, didn't punch the Reese as much as you needed to. Once you found the Brig, you target focused it, and then I stopped paying attention.
Okay,
Once I saw the Ram
you
ult.
watched the important parts of the clip. The second half of the clip is more, we just wanted to show how the fight played out.
I think I have a good amount to say for this one.
Let's hear it.
I think the fight started out well. However, I don't know where your E went when you pushed the Sojourn at the very beginning of the fight. If that had been on the Sojourn, definitely you could have pushed her a bit more. I think my main issue is just when the Orisa popped the Orisa ult, you kind of looked at her when you should have. I think that's an opportunity where you could have turned to your left and instead pushed the Brig. So here's all fine. Yeah, your E was kind of missed on the Sojourn. I think you pushed a little too long there. This is good finding Brig. Going back to one of your points is mechanics on pushes. You missed 2 punches on that Brig. Should be dead if you didn't miss those. Here you're staring at their tank for no reason. Brig is still to your left. You know that. I think you could walk into that left room and pressure that Brig, so you should be in here already. Again, mechanics thing, you should press your E in that left room in order to stop that Tracer. You're kind of just sitting on that cooldown, so Sojourn's now taking that space. You could press E here and slow her, or use your E at some point this fight. Sorry, I'm coaching you now. I think the rest of that was fine. But yeah, I think there's just a lot of missed opportunities. So this falls into the trap, talking about what Tyler said about tanks taking aggression, taking attention. Their Orisa was doing a really good job of taking attention. Like, I think she played this fight better than you did, probably, because of how many cooldowns she used. Like, you see, she saved her Brig by taking her attention away. So I think that Orisa played this fight really well. So if you're to look at this from the Orisa's POV, I think she played this fight really well. Whereas you were getting distracted a lot and fell into a lot of common pitfalls of the player.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add. So I think Seamus. I think there is a lot like good and bad in this. Obviously, none of us are perfect players. I think the good things is he didn't only look at Orisa. He did control this left room for a good amount. I think he did get caught up once the Orisa ulted with some of these cooldown usages, but the main thing. But I think we all get the point, right? Like, look at the targets that are exerting pressure that you can punish, right? Any other comments? All right. Hero designs. That was the fundamentals portion. Now we're gonna go into a bit the differences between heroes. I'm gonna try to like go a little speedy through these just so we can not have this go on for too long. Was this you or this was me? So what makes tank playstyles different? I believe the main three things are your mobility, your cycles or your uptime, and the favorable 1v1s we talked about. Those change a lot, but also tanks do have targets that they tend to prefer to target. Then I do have some minor things here, like different levels of sustain, your effective range. Most tanks have the same effective range, it's close. Utility, mechanics, and the type of damage if you're doing burst or stuff like that.
Okay. And then I'll take this one. Another thing is uptime and cycles. So the graphs that Tyler assembled are a great way to visualize this. So certain tanks, the way to read this is how much does your value spike versus how much are you providing consistent value. So Winston is a very much a cyclical tank. He has big value spikes. These high points here are when you're jumping, using your bubble. You're taking a ton of attention, making a ton of space, doing a lot of damage, getting a lot of value. But then when you jump out, your bubble's broken. You get to this low point here where you're basically not doing anything. Versus a more consistent tank like Sig, where you have a lot of consistent uptime, doing consistent damage. You might hit a value spike, like you hit a rock that gets a lot of value. Maybe you get a kill off of that if you hit it on a squishy, or you absorb a lot of damage with your suck. But generally, you don't get the huge value spikes, but you don't get the huge valleys either. So this is a very important thing to keep in mind based on your hero. Is your hero more cyclical, or is your hero more consistent? And that's also that's an important thing to think about with the enemy tank as well. Like, can we bait them to use their ability that provides value and then kite their big value, engage, or survive through it? Like a big one that you see a lot is force ramp form and then try to just live through survive ramp form. And then once his nemesis is off cooldown, then you go in because he has this low point in value for a while. So it's an important thing to think about for yourself and for the enemy with how you're engaging and fighting.
Sick. And one other thing I just thought about, so a lot of roles do have these cycles, but why it matters so much for tank is that, like we talked about, tanks are the ones engaging. They are kind of the ones dictating like what the flow of the fight is. So oftentimes your team comp will be built around your cycles, or just your team will play around your cycles. Obviously, support cooldowns are very important on that. You kind of want to match your cycles with the rest of your team's cooldowns, but just in general for tank gameplay, yeah. Any questions on this, by the way? Awesome. So this is the a chart I made. This is like kind of a theory crafted idea. I call this the stiff chart. This is kind of so on the y-axis you have mobility, and on the x-axis you have your cycle type. So on the far right you have your all-in, all-out tanks, and then on the far left you have your consistent tanks that get a lot of neutral value, and then obviously in the middle, and you notice that it kind of follows a line. The exact placements of these, you can argue with me on these. I wasn't 100% sure on some of these, but for the most part, it does go on this sort of trajectory. So the less mobility you have, the more of a consistent value tank you are, and the more of a like dive tank you are, the more all in, all out. This is your dive tanks, right? The more mobility you have. And then so you kind of notice the left side, you're kind of poke, middle brawl, top dive. All right, now we're going to get into these tanks. All right, we're going to go through this pretty quickly. So Doomfist, very good mobility. He is very, like, a very in and out tank, dive tank. A lot of him hinges on getting his powered punch and hitting a lot of people and displacing people with that ability. And you know what, Andy, I'm gonna let you talk a bit on Doomfist here. Any words you want to share?
Let's see. You put me on the spot here.
I know
yeah,
some stuff about him, but I'm sure you have a pretty good understanding for the macro of
I
this guy.
guess one thing that is good to talk about with Doom is that you don't really interact with the other enemy tank. You do just want to go for squishies, and your biggest value spike is your powered punch, which you can only get by engaging with the enemy. So, yeah, you basically just want to be like you're like a faster Winston, in a sense. So, like, if you know how to play Winston, just like think about playing him like quicker, and with your higher damage, you can find easier picks, and Winston can.
Yeah,
I guess is what I want to say.
I would definitely say that Doomfist has higher like spikes. If you get your empowered punch, you can actually engage properly. But his neutral is kind of meh. His primary weapon kind of sucks unless you get a big punch.
Like his neutral is like maybe a little better than like Winston. I think Winston probably has the worst neutral, but still very cyclical. Moving on to D.Va. Seamus.
Yes, can explain this real quick. So, D.Va's kind of a weird case on the Tyler chart because she is a very highly mobile character, but she also has a pretty consistent value graph with being able to provide consistent close range damage, pretty high uptime on defense matrix. So yeah, effective range close. And D.Va is a very good 1v1 character against almost all heroes. She does struggle a bit against some beam characters, but even then, like if you're in a 1v1 with a Symmetra, you're gonna win most of the time. So yeah, Hazard.
Yep.
You want to take that one?
Yeah. So Hazard.
Tyler, could I ask
what's up?
Professor? Could I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So I understand that the graph is value over time.
Mm-hmm.
But could you quickly clarify what it means for the dead and AFK at the top and bottom?
So once you cross, this value chart here, the AFK at the bottom is what it means. It's your AFK. You're not getting any value. You're not doing anything. This is like where Monkey would literally just be hiding in cover, waiting for his cooldowns to come back, maybe getting some heals. And then the dead is a little like kind of weird, but it's basically once you've crossed the threshold of how much value you can get, you're dead. So you want to like get like, if you guys know what limit testing is, you want to get like getting to the top of this value is getting kind of close to dying low key, but if you exceed how much value you can like exert, you're dead. If that makes sense. It's kind of weird to explain.
Okay, so it's a measure of how much value you're getting.
Yeah, pretty much.
Versus like not dying, which is the dead part. I just wanted clarification on the dead at the top.
Yeah, I probably should have said something about that, but yeah. And also
I
these.
have a. Sorry, you can
I was just gonna say a lot of these charts I tried to think a lot on them. Some of them I think are good. Some of them I'm not sure about, but so don't take those for what they are. Pretty much take them with a grain of salt.
It's like the framework of thinking is just thinking about those variables.
Seamus, you said D.Va is like a very consistent, like you normally get a good amount of value in the neutral. Why is her value higher than like Doomfist, for example, in the neutral? Because they're both like mobility characters that rely on like close range damage, right?
Mainly because of defense matrix. She can control space without having to commit as much. So could just get value by, defense matrixing an angle, like defense matrixing poke. That's the matrix is the main reason. Characters like Doomfist don't really have that. Doomfist's block is, I don't know, I don't play Doom on a 4-second cooldown, 5-second cooldown ish.
It's on 8.
8. Oh wow, shit. Yeah. So a very long cooldown. Diva's matrix comes back every like second or two, and it's on a resource meter, so you can manage it. If you manage it effectively, you'll pretty much always have it up once it recharges. Once you go through that 1-second cooldown or 2-second, whatever it is, after you lower it. So that's the answer mainly.
So she gets value defensively, not offensively.
Yeah, mostly, but
Okay.
She can engage.
Right. She has those value spikes, but her consistent is defense.
Yeah, mainly, yes.
All right. So Hazard, new hero, very overtuned kit. He has a lot of mobility, but it's usually very not short range, but it's like shorter range than most dive tanks. So it's kind of like a short range burst. He does a lot of burst damage. So he's kind of like he's a dive tank, I would still consider, but he is getting close to that brawl area where he still, like, if you play Hazard, it seems like he still has pretty consistent uptime. Obviously, you got to like recharge your block and you have to go wait for your slash to go in. But he's still very, with his block being very good and like recharging and his wall being an insane ability, he has very good uptime for his mobility. But really, his favorable 1v. I mean, he's pretty good into everything. I would say like if you were to tell me to like name weaknesses of Hazard, it's like he is limited in some instances in his mobility and length, like in far ranged maps, like until you get that violent leap perk, he is kind of is a little tricky to cross big distances with. And he doesn't have reliable CC prevention besides his wall, but it's you don't like to use the wall as much for that. You more like to use it to block off areas of the map. But anyway, that's Hazard. Junker Queen, she has a value spike very similar to a dive tank, kind of, without the mobility. She's obviously pretty good in the neutral. Her shotgun, her knives are really good, but a lot of her kit is based around her shout. You need to be getting a lot of value from your shout engages. You should rarely be using shout to extend your life. Like, you shouldn't really be using it for sustain. Well, you're using it for sustain, but you shouldn't be using it reactionary because you're taking damage. You should be using it mostly for its speed boost to secure kills, secure and take space. And then if you guys have any questions or want to say anything about any of the heroes, go ahead. But I'm just gonna kind of go through these. Oh, actually, Eric, you go ahead with this one.
Oh, Malga, my beloved. I would say Malga's. I think I think the graph is pretty accurate in the sense that he has a very big spike in relation to his shout. Malga's just a very brawly tank. You can kind of get a little divey with him, but you really need the support of your team to help you out. Otherwise, he's just an enormous target that gets punished very easily. He has his run every 6 seconds, so you can do a lot of cycles that are small with that, and getting a critical hit is really important because that's what gives you the most amount of overhealth in the smallest amount of time. But you really want to rely on your shout and your engages with your team in order to get value with him. Another thing for Malga, I think that a lot of people undervalue is just having the raw aim and mechanics for his guns and cycling them well. Because any critical hit you get is going to be giving you overhealth and lifesteal. So you want to make sure that you have pretty good aim because you can isolate a lot of targets, burn them, and then just get a free pick off of that.
Awesome. Very true. Very true. Orisa.
Yeah, I can take Orisa. So Orisa, not a very mobile tank. Her only mobility option is the javelin spin, which sometimes you forego for the shield perk. And then her graph, she is a very consistent tank, not a super cyclical tank. She has a lot of consistent defensive ability with her spin and fortify. You can, if you cycle those cooldowns well, you can have one of those up for a significant portion of the fight. So you can get value spikes from spear mainly is the big thing. You could hit a spear on a squishy, use that to try and secure a kill or force a lot of resources. But mainly, you just want to play to brawl super heavy with her good consistent damage and good consistent survivability.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say sustain is the strongest part of Orisa.
Yeah.
All right, Ramatra. So this is the character that Red Team has forced me to play the most, or else I just play Wrecking Ball. So I do know a bit about this character. So his cycle, he has really good uptime if you manage his cycles well. Kind of on this graph here, he still has these neutral. I would say this is when you have your shield and you're in Omnic form poking. You're kind of just like a Sigma in that sense. And then you have your spike with your Nemesis form. And then when you don't have Nemesis form and shield, you're chilling. You're off your cycle. So he's not like a dive tank where he's up and down, but he's more like he has neutral, he has up, he has neutral, he's kind of like that. But really the biggest thing about Ramatra is that he can do a lot of things. He can poke from range, and he can hold spaces for a long amount of time. He has really good, not as good sustain as Orisa. I mean, arguably a lot because because he his block is insane, but usually you don't want to be blocking during all of your Nemesis form. You do want to use Nemesis form as an engage tool, kind of like what I said with Junker Queen Shout. You want to use that as your value spike. You want to use it to create space, create pressure on the team, and that sort of thing. But also, obviously, the block creates insane sustain and forces a lot of attention. Reinhardt.
Yeah, Reinhardt. So, Reinhardt has decent mobility. Not decent's a word, but he has pin, which is on a 6 or 7 second cooldown, which allows you to get areas very fast. But once you have your pin, you have no mobility, or once you don't have your pin, you have no mobility basically. And for his cycles, it kind of changes depending on the matchup. But generally he's very consistent. You have a big shield with a lot of HP, so managing that will allow you to have a lot of consistent uptime throughout the fight, and allow you to soak up a lot of pressure. That's mainly what Reinhardt is good for in Overwatch 2, is just holding a space and absorbing a lot of pressure. You can hit pretty big value spikes in the right circumstances, hitting a pin, getting a good engage with your hammer, and getting good swings on their team. But generally, want to play more to hold an area. I think, I don't know, Ryan's a weird character in Overwatch 2. So if anyone disagrees with me on that, I'd like to hear thoughts on that. He's kind of a chud character, so that's my take on him, though.
I don't know if I missed it. What does PB mean?
Point blank.
Okay.
Yeah. Reinhardt can pretty much hold any room, but if Reinhardt's really good at just fighting those 1v1s, no one can really. If you are taking the fights close range, he is one of the best heroes in the game. All right, Roadhog. So this
Shud Supreme.
this is a weird character, right? He kind of obviously little mobility. I gave him a D- because his perk, he can speed up during his vape, and he's actually kind of fast. So I took him off the F tier. So I don't even know if this is controversial, but I would consider Roadhog a spam tank in the same form as Sigma, just because he does have kind of this consistent, like he's just spamming people with his gun, and oh, he hit a hook, and then his value goes down after he gets a spike when he hits his hook, and then oh, he's waiting for his hook to come back, and he pretty much always has take a breather, to be honest, unless he gets antied. So that also keeps him consistent and not on any sort of cycle. But really, just hit your hooks on Roadhog. Be mindful of your poke. And yeah, you can pretty much pub stomp if you do those things, but he is a weird character. Moving on to Sigma. Was this you or me? I forget.
I forget too. I guess I'll just take them.
Go ahead.
So Sigma, very low mobility character. The only mobility you have is if you take the hover perk, which is very slow mobility, and the only really use for that is to let you get to high ground you otherwise wouldn't be able to. And Sig is kind of a unique character in the game where or a unique tank, I should say, in that he wants to maintain distance generally, and play from mid-long range. And as you can see with his graph, he has a very consistent uptime cycle. You should be able to. Your shield is a big resource to manage, and you kind of have your grasp to mainly help you manage that. So with those two abilities combined, you can have a lot of defensive uptime and at the same time have offensive uptime with his high damage primary fire. Your main value spike will be hitting a rock. If you hit a rock on a squishy, that oftentimes can lead to a kill. Hitting a rock on a tank can stop and engage from their tank. Like that's if you're playing against an engaged tank, a lot of times that is your main counterplay. Try to rock their engage. Like if you're playing against a diva and the diva's flying on you, you can try to hit the rock and then your team can try to blow her up. But yeah, Sig kind of a unique character in this game. So just generally want to play to have consistent uptime with damage and defense. Look for rock value spikes. And then on the opposite end, we have Winston, who is a very mobile character with his jump on a 5-second cooldown, I believe. And he has very big value spikes, like we said earlier, with the jump and bubble that allows you to make a lot of space, arguably the most value any character gets in the game consistently with the jump and bubble. So you want to look to secure a lot of things you can do. That you can secure kills on squishies, force squishies out, coordinate dives. So yeah, it's Winston.
I have a question on this one. Why is favorable 1v1s, why is it armorless squishies? I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Winston's primary fire ignores armor.
Oh, it does now,
Yes,
doesn't it?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
I think it does.
ignore armor. He struggles against shields, but armor he has no problem against.
Well, wait, shields?
Well, he goes right through shields.
But no, because he does less damage to shields if I remember correctly.
No, that's just you just made that up. Nope.
Am I?
Yeah, he does the same amount of damage to every character.
Yeah.
I think maybe saying high burst damage close range characters would be a little bit better of a term. Because in theory he gets a lot of value in a character like Brig because you like pierce through her shield.
Yeah, scratch that then. I forgot the armor.
Sorry,
thing.
you pierce through her armor.
I forgot they changed that, but yeah. No, yeah. He is very scared in a lot of tank matchups too, I guess, to note that. So there's a lot of tanks that just kind of own Winston in just a 1v1 purely, so you're never really tank trading that much as Winston unless you're in a mirror. Okay, guys, Wrecking Ball. This is my personal main when I'm in ranked games.
Best tank in Overwatch too.
I know, he's just so fun. So he's a dive tank. the main difference between him and like a Winston, for example, is Wrecking Ball can stay in. I think I kind of misrepresented this graph, because instead of one engage, he's kind of like in getting his slam and then stretching out his value as much as possible with his mechanics. He has a lot of insane mechanics that he can do, and his mobility is also the best in the game. So he can really use his mobility to squeeze out the value out of his engages. But then once he does get forced out, he does have to roll away. But because of his high mobility, he can often grab megas to get in quicker than going back to your supports, or it's just getting megas is valuable just because you are allowing your supports oftentimes to get value by being a low resource tank. Obviously, you have to play the character well to be low resource. Sometimes I'll admit I'm not the most low resource Wrecking Ball, but I try to be. And he's also pretty decent in mid range against compared to most dive tanks, so he can kind of like if he's diving like maybe a Reaper or something, he can kind of keep his distance and shoot him and still do a decent amount of damage. But for the most part, he wants to be close range and focus squishies and look for people out of position. He does not have big frontline presence, but he makes up for that in being in getting on the back line extremely easily. And finally,
I have a question on Ball.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why is his value in like neutral when he's not doing anything higher than Winston's? Because when Ball is out of the fight, right, he's completely gone.
Yeah, I think
he at least has his right click, which isn't a lot of damage, and you shouldn't necessarily be going for it often. But why is he like higher value?
Yeah, I think I messed up this chart a bit, to be honest. I do think it is a bit lower. The argument would be that a lot of the times Wrecking Ball does force a lot of attention on his escapes sometimes getting marked, but the same can be said for Winston, so I would also agree that he should be a little lower on this.
Yeah. Maybe have like more cycles, like
and
shorter.
And I think he
subtitles.
has a little he has a little bursts at the top and stuff.
He'd be in like longer, so I think your drop offs are a little long. You can just keep it like
yeah.
Like a straight line.
I purposely made them longer, but I forgot to bring them down more. So yeah, they should be down a little lower. But also I think he also has a little few like little mini curves throughout here. But anyway, finally Zarya. And then I will. Wait, is Zach the snack in the call? No? Zach the snack isn't here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh my god, Zach. Talk a little bit about Zarya, shall we?
Mobility at F is crazy.
Okay, you're
she has
done.
more mobility than Sigma. But all alt fire?
Okay, no, yeah.
Yeah, and more mobility than Roadhog.
Nah, the speed boost perk is actually insane, though. I disagree.
The chart's good. I mean, it depends really on her energy. It'll always dip when she's out of fights because the energy goes down. Yeah, favorable 1v1s. I mean, if you're 100%, it's pretty much anyone in range.
Yeah, the big thing is like bubble cycles too. Like obviously you're on an upwards trajectory as Zarya once you're getting charged, but you still have to follow your bubble cycles. You can't just go in without any bubbles. So in that sense, she still has her own cycle, but she can start to preserve her bubbles more once she's more of a threat, I guess. I don't know. Would you agree with that, Zach? Once she's higher charged, she can be very greedy.
Yeah, once you're closer to 100, you don't need to use them as much. I mean, I usually use my bubbles like somewhat early to get charged first, wait a second, and then go back in. But
yeah, I think the more important part is that your first couple of bubbles that you're using are for the purpose of getting energy, and then once you're at that energy, that's when you can find those higher consistent value spikes by actually using your bubbles either for yourself for selfish reasons once you have a bunch of charge, or to support your team while you also go in. So that's where those higher value spikes are.
Awesome. All right, does anyone have anything else? Because that's all we have for you.
No questions, no yap.
Are we applying this in the ranked game mode in roughly 5 minutes?
Okay, I'll be in the
It could
ranked
get
game
deadly.
mode, but I don't know if I'm applying it.
To say who's going to be applying it in the ranked game mode.
So,
I could get deadly.
all right. So, with the conclusion of the presentation, then, as the professor, how often do you actually apply all of this in the ranked game mode?
Okay. So I will say this. Like knowing is half the battle, right? Once you're actually in a game of Overwatch, there is so much stuff going on, and even outside of the game, you still might not even know the correct answer. So, just the main thing you can do to start implementing what you know is right is just try to be critically thinking during your games. Thinking was like kind of like thinking about each of your cooldowns, like was that the most value I could have gotten from that? Your ultimates, everything you talked about, but like the main thing is keep your just keep it in mind, but don't like overthink stuff, obviously. But actually knowing versus applying is very different. Uh, Keeping your mind clear, remembering everything, and obviously there's the mechanical aspect too of just getting used to cooldown cycles and everything like that. So practice makes perfect. I've given you guys the tools, and now you just have to
Make the space.
make the space.
Wow.
There we go.
Wow.
Could you
Poetic.
speed run like a 30-second long summary? Since this was an hour and a half long presentation, what would be a
Yeah,
good
so
summary if you had to give
pretty long. I'm gonna summarize the fundamentals. Um, Basically, I would consider tanking to be split into so there's the big thing, the medium thing, and the small things. Okay, big thing is you want to apply pressure. You want to force cooldowns. You want to force attention. You want to force favorable number matchups. And you want to make space, clear areas on the map. That is what you want to be doing. Then there's the medium. It's kind of the what you should be doing to achieve that, how you should go about it, and that is the three elements we were talking about. The 1v1s you want to take, or the targets you want to focus, if you want to word it that way. The areas on the map that are important in the moment of the fight, and how aggressive people on the map are being towards your team. How engaged are they? How engaged is your team? And then going into the micro, before the micro, I would say timing falls somewhere in there. Timing is a very huge part of it. Going in when your team is staged, when they're ready. And then in the micro, you have things like managing your resources. Like I say micro, but this is very important stuff, but this is just like the individual aspect. You want to manage your resources and your cycles well. You want to obviously be comfortable with your mechanics, and you want to traverse the map in a great way, or in a ideal way where you're limiting poke and that sort of thing. You're managing your HP, uh, and that sort of thing. And I think that's a good summary for all that.
I agree.
All right. And with that, go make some space, guys.